Let me share a story that might surprise you, a tale about emotions, choices, and unexpected connections. It's a story that might even shock you, but there's more to it than meets the eye. Let's dive in. My name is Sarah, and I'll never forget the day I stepped into what became the most confusing and intense period of my life. Sometimes, when I look back, I question whether it really happened, or if it was all just a dream. The story begins with my husband, David, who is a hard-working man, but over time, something changed. His attention to me, the love that once made our relationship special, faded. What once felt like a deep connection felt more like distant companionship. We lived on a property with a beautiful horse named Max. At first, Max was just another animal on the farm, nothing special. But, as time passed, I began to feel a strange connection with him. His muscular frame, his graceful movements, they started to fill a void I didn't even realize existed within me. His deep, soulful eyes seemed to hold a quiet understanding, and sometimes, I would just stand there and stare at him, letting my mind wander. At first, I didn't know what these feelings meant. I was confused, trying to reconcile my emotions with what was happening in my marriage. David came home from work, weary and distant, while Max seemed to offer the companionship I was desperately seeking. Every moment I spent with him, whether it was a quiet walk in the garden or simply sitting beside him, felt like a moment of peace, a connection I no longer felt with David. One evening, as the sun set and the sky painted shades of pink and orange, I sat beside Max in the stable, feeling a rush of emotions. There was something magnetic about him, something that pulled me in. His strength, his quiet beauty, it was like he understood my loneliness in a way that no one else could. But even then, I couldn't bring myself to fully acknowledge what I was feeling. I tried to push it down, to pretend like everything was okay, but the pull was undeniable. The more time I spent with Max, the stronger my attachment became. He was no longer just a horse to me, he had become my refuge, my confidant. I knew that what I was feeling was complicated and wrong, but every day, it became harder to ignore. As the days went by, I couldn't shake the sense that something was changing inside me. The connection I had with Max was growing deeper, and I found myself torn between the emotional void left by David's indifference and the unexpected comfort Max provided. One morning, I took Max for a walk in the garden as the first rays of sunlight broke through the trees. Everything felt peaceful, but inside, I was conflicted. I knew what I was feeling wasn't normal, but I couldn't deny it. When I looked into Max's eyes, it was like time stood still. I felt understood. I felt safe. But as fate would have it, things quickly took a turn. I heard the sound of David's car pulling into the driveway. Panic surged through me. I didn't want him to know about the bond I had developed with Max. How could I explain it? My heart raced as David got out of the car and walked toward the garden. And then, just like that, our quiet moment was shattered. David saw us. His eyes narrowed in disbelief. "What's going on here?" he shouted, his voice full of anger and confusion. I froze, caught in the middle of a storm I hadn't been prepared for. His words stung like a slap to the face. "What were you doing out here with the horse?" he demanded. In that instant, the weight of my actions hit me. The connection I had with Max had grown beyond anything I could have predicted, and now it was exposed. David's anger was sharp, his words cutting deep. He couldn't understand what was happening, and honestly, neither could I. I tried to explain, but nothing came out. His frustration only grew. "What were you thinking?" he yelled again. "How could you be like this?" His face twisted with rage as he looked at me with disgust. "How could you humiliate me like this? What does it mean to be with the horse?" The guilt and confusion that surged within me left me speechless. His anger overwhelmed me, and I realized in that moment that everything I had been feeling, everything I had been trying to suppress, had now come to light. The shame, the guilt, the realization that I had been living a lie, it all hit me at once. But there was no taking it back. "I'm selling Max," David suddenly declared. "You'll never see him again." I stood there, paralyzed, unable to stop him as he stormed toward the garage. Max was no longer just a horse to me, he had become a symbol of everything I needed, everything I was missing. But David's words were final. He was going to take Max away. Days passed, and with each one, I felt the emptiness grow. The garden was quieter, colder. I couldn't hear Max's strong hooves echoing in the distance, and I couldn't feel the warmth of his presence beside me. David had sold him, and I had no idea where he had gone. I searched everywhere, asking around, visiting farms, hoping to find some trace of Max. But no one knew anything. It was as though he had vanished, leaving nothing behind but the memories of the bond we had shared. As the weeks went by, David and I became more distant. The tension between us was unbearable. He wanted to move on, and I was consumed with the search for Max. It felt like everything in my life was falling apart. Eventually, the inevitable happened, the divorce papers arrived, and David packed his things. We were officially over. But losing Max? That was something I couldn't shake. David leaving didn't affect me the way I thought it would. I had already distanced myself from him emotionally. But losing Max, losing that connection, I couldn't move past it. Every day, I searched, hoping against hope that I would find him again. Maybe in some corner of the world, Max was waiting for me, and so, my search continued, even as time passed. I don't know if I'll ever find Max. Maybe he's out there somewhere, or maybe he's gone for good. But one thing is certain, the connection we had is something I'll never forget. The love and trust he gave me in those quiet moments together, the comfort he provided when I needed it most, those memories will always be with me. I don't know what the future holds. All I know is that I'm still out there, searching for Max, holding on to the hope that one day, I'll find him again. And so, the story ends, for now.